All right, so let's jump right in. We rely on surveys for pretty much everything, right? From public health to political polling. But here's the big question. How do we know if people are actually telling the truth? Today, we're going to break down a massive scientific review that set out to find the single best way to get honest answers.
Come on, be honest with me for a second. Have you ever kind of stretched the truth on a survey? Maybe said you exercise a little more than you really do, or, I don't know, downplayed how much time you spend scrolling on your phone? Yeah, most of us have. And it turns out that little habit is a huge problem for researchers.
You see, this tendency we have to present ourselves in the best possible light, even when no one's really watching, it actually has a scientific name, and its consequences are way bigger than you might think.
It's called Social Desirability Bias, or SDB for short. And what's so interesting about this is that it's not always about consciously trying to fool someone. A lot of the time, it can be an unconscious thing, where we actually start to believe our own slightly polished version of the truth just to maintain a positive self-image.
So this creates this huge gap between what we say we do, like, oh yeah, I eat healthy all the time, or of course I follow all the public health rules, and what we actually do. And that gap, well, that's where all the problems start.
The crucial point here is that this isn't just some minor little inaccuracy. It can contaminate entire data sets. And when scientists build models or governments create policies based on that flawed data, guess what? Those models and policies can completely fail because they're based on who we pretend to be, not who we really are.
And that is exactly why researchers are so obsessed with finding a way to get past this bias. This particular paper we're looking at today, it represents one of the most comprehensive searches for a solution that has ever been done.
And just look at this. This really shows you the scale of what they did. They started with almost 5,000 studies. Then, after a super rigorous screening process, they boiled it all down to 79 top-quality papers that had experimentally tested different ways to reduce this bias. So yeah, this is a serious, heavyweight analysis.
So across all of those experiments, they found 13 different methods that researchers have tried over the years, all of them designed with one goal: get people to give more truthful answers. So which one actually works best?
Well, after putting all 13 of those techniques head-to-head, the review found that there was one clear winner. One strategy that stood head and shoulders above the rest as the most consistent and the most effective.
And the winner is a technique called face-saving strategies. Out of all the methods they looked at, this was the one that just reliably worked time and time again to reduce social desirability bias.
So what is it? It's actually surprisingly simple. A face-saving strategy just means you change how you word a question to make it feel psychologically safer for someone to admit to something that might go against a social norm. You basically give them an out.
Here is a perfect example from a study on COVID-19 compliance that really shows how it works. Okay, so the control group just got a direct yes or no question. But the other group? First, they got this little preamble that basically normalizes different behaviors. Saying some people do this, some do that. Then, and this is key, they were offered these guilt-free answer options like occasionally or only when necessary. It just signals that the researcher gets it, that life is complicated.
And the result? Get this. Every single time this method was tested, in all 18 experiments that made it into the review, it significantly reduced bias. A 100% success rate. In social science research, that is, well, it's pretty much unheard of.
But of course, face-saving isn't the only trick up researchers' sleeves. There are other really clever methods out there that take a totally different approach, focusing more on anonymity.
So, the list experiment is a popular one. Here, you give people a list of, say, 4 or 5 statements, and you just ask them how many they agree with, not which specific ones. By comparing a group that gets a list with a sensitive item to a group that gets one without it, you can statistically figure out the real percentage of people who agree with that sensitive thing. Pretty clever.
Then you have probability-based techniques, which are even more wild. They might have someone say, roll a die. If it lands on a 1 or 2, they have to say yes. If it's a 3 or 4, they have to say no. Otherwise, they answer honestly. The researcher never actually knows why someone said yes, but using the magic of probability, they can calculate the true rate for the whole group. So, how do they all stack up? Well, this chart really says it all. Face-saving strategies have that perfect 100% record. Probability-based techniques, they're effective about 73% of the time. And list experiments work, well, just over half the time. So, while the others give you more anonymity, face-saving gives you more consistently accurate results.
And this really gets at the key trade-offs, Face-saving's pretty easy to do,
but you have to be really skillful in how you design those guilt-free answer options. The other methods, they offer this powerful anonymity, but they often need huge sample sizes, involve some really complex analysis, and honestly, they can sometimes just be confusing for the people taking the survey.
So, okay, this might all seem like a super technical detail for survey nerds, right? But the implications of getting this right are absolutely enormous for all of us. Think about it. More accurate data means we get a much truer picture of a public health crisis. It means political polls might be less likely to have those embarrassing misses. It means we have a better grasp on really sensitive social issues, from illegal behavior to unspoken prejudices. It helps us understand what people actually think and do.
And ultimately, the study's conclusion is a clear call to action for anyone doing research. It proves there is a reliable way to get closer to the truth, and it's a method that relies more on empathy and understanding people than on complicated statistics.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. If something as simple as changing the way we ask a question can have such a profound impact, what other crucial truths are we missing right now just because we haven't found the right way to ask?